A very good afternoon to everyone. I know everyone is very excited to ask questions to Anurag and Sudhir. But before you shoot off your questions, I would request Anurag to speak about the film.
I prefer that everybody watches the film. Kennedy is a very personal thriller. It's a thriller, but it's also a personal film, and it's the central character I stole from Sudhir Mishra. From 20 years ago, I was supposed to write a script for him, which we were working on. That film that did not take off, but the character stayed with me. Sudhir used to tell me stories of this certain police officer as an example when we were writing the script, and that stayed with me. और वो कैरेक्टर से मैं इतना ऑब्सेस्ड था, मैंने बहुत बार ट्राई किया how to make a film on this character, in what circumstances, and then in the lockdown presented me with a circumstance that I could put the character from Sudhir's story in that circumstance and create a fictional film around it. So that's what Kennedy is. It has a lot of poetry and Western classical and an amazing central performance from Rahul Bhatt. And it's pretty, the whole choreography between my production designer, my costume designer and my cameraman, it's like they're dancing together, and that's how the film comes out. Ranjan Singh is my producer, and my other two producers, Kabir Ahuja, is not here, and Z Studios, Sharik Patel, who's not here, who's from Kolkata. Sharik Patel is also from Kolkata, and the film would not have happened without them. So here I am, and I hope everybody likes the film.
Thank you so much, Anurag. Welcome to Kolkata International Film Festival. You will find an amazing audience here when it starts. And I just, thank you. Even in Devdi, your film, you just took everything apart and reconstructed it in your own way. You have this thing about, it was in all the earlier versions, it was a very lyrical, tragical love story. But you actually reconstructed many of the things. So you have this thing about, juxtaposing contradictory things and making it beautiful.
I would just say I like to play. Because there's a lot of fun in what has become the norm or what is like written in stone to change it. And because until we don't change it or we don't subvert something, nothing new comes out of it. Something new comes out of it when we do that. Sometimes you fail, but more often than not we succeed.
Yeah, but it's very important to experiment.
It's very important to, it's very important to experiment. But in the sense, not to take everything written in stone too seriously.
Yeah, no, but you never take the safe route.
Yeah. Yeah, in the sense, it's boring. Playing safe is boring because you play safe when you're doing everything, keeping in mind the box office. I'm going to break the box office record of this film or that film, then you play safe. I don't like to play safe. And it's also boring because until I'm not enjoying making a film, then I would rather not make the film.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. How is Sudhir connected to this film?
Because I stole the character from Sudhir.
I'm not connected. I mean, उसको प्यार से को प्यार ही रहने दो ना, कोई नाम ना दो ना. मतलब this is I know him from he was born in Bombay, so I mean we're all connected. And I've said in Calcutta, I've said this, that when I saw Devdi, that I'm inspired by him. So it's not. I mean, after 3-5 films, we are all the same. It's not. He is the most inspiring young man in the city. So every time I get despondent and think I should run away, I look at him and it's inspiring. So maybe that's our job. You kind of work off each other, no?
He's the OG. Gen Z language, he's the OG. he's the original. So there's a lot of things I've learned from him.
I mean, we are from someone. We all teach each other tricks.
No, he's just being very humble. We have all learned a lot from him in the sense. Earlier, Sudhir has never made a film without having his disciples sit around and bounce off the idea and improvise on it. Film बनने से पहले हम लोग, I don't know how many times I've sat down in the sittings of हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी, or films after that. I've been when he was shooting इस रात की सुबह नहीं तो वहाँ पे भी घूमने टहलते चले जाते थे हम लोग. So Sudhir has always been there and he's very inclusive in his process. So there's a lot that one has learned from him over the years, and he's still inclusive. So that inclusiveness is what we feed off.
I mean, now I narrate my next film that I'm going to make. I narrate it to him, and he said, "Don't shoot it till you don't finish the climax." So I didn't shoot it. I mean, you listen to each other in a sense because there's nobody else. It's like a family, no? Who else can you listen to? Then otherwise you're listening to marketing ideas only.
So, yeah. So, Doctor, tell us about Devdi. What inspired you to make this?
What is actually Devdas is I've read a lot of Sarat Chandra, and I always found Devdas to be his weakest novel.
Yes.
It is his weakest novel and made the most number of times. And by chance I came across a version of his story of his life spent in Bangladesh. And then I realized where Devdas came from. It was a fictionalized teenage version of the life that he lived in Bangladesh. So I went to the source. I did not go to Devdas, I went to the source. I researched his time spent as a teenager there, and then I compared that to the time we were living in when we made that film. So I found parallels because there's no point telling the same story that has been told so many times. People remember, so it allowed me to jump in time. It allowed me to jump in time. It allowed me to play with what was set in stone. I don't have to explain who Chandramukhi is, who Paro is, who Devdas is. It's a given. People understand. What I can do beyond that is what I was trying to do, and mostly, if book was never the source material for me. Source material, Vikram Motwani wrote the first draft. He used the book as a source material because he also worked on Devdas that Bansali made.
Yeah.
And then I took it and I played with it and I went to what I found about his life as a teenager.
Yeah. No, the best thing about Devdi, and I'm sure about all your films, is that in Devdi all the characters they were not plastic characters. They were real characters. They had real feelings. They had real hunger for sex, for relationships. They were not some ethereal, abstract, unreal characters. So, please tell us about your other films, the other films that you have made, and your any future projects that you have.
Future, I keep writing. I'm always ready for a lot. So I have written a lot. I have a lot of unmade scripts and films. I keep writing. So whatever happens next will happen next.
So do you have any favorites amongst the films that you've made? Wasikpur and...
I don't know. I always say my favorite is my next.
No, Sudeep, I think people also want to hear from you.
About what? No, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm doing a series, a limited series in January, which is roughly going into the 70s and coming of age of 5 people who get involved in the JP movement. So it's about the life, it's about the time when life was not about loving your parents, but sometimes reacting to them. So it's that which I quite, the way the scripts worked out, I quite like. It's all with young people. And it'll be fresh. Let's see. I mean, to talk about something you haven't done is, somebody else should talk about it, but
No, but something I want to say something is that even Hazaro Khwaishe was about young people, about the JP, time of JP. It was a culture.
That's because Sudhir is young. He only makes film about young people because he's a young man.
मेरे बारे में बोल रहे थे अभी कि मतलब आप ही नहीं बड़े हुए बाकी It's you can visit that was a time in the 70s when that's the last time when people saw. I mean, from then on the era of individualism begins. So that is the time when people thinking not of themselves, people are thinking of the other, thinking of the world outside. And I think you need to connect back to that time and know that not that there wasn't any. I mean, it's not this romanticization or sentimental version of that time. No, I mean, you make one film and then you go away. I mean, is Kennedy, Vasipur 2 or is it not? I mean, every film is an extension. No, I mean, it's the same Anurag Kashyap is making that film, but hopefully he's sort of, something else, you want to surprise yourself, So, I mean, actually, I don't know how it will turn out, and I don't think Anurag knew when he was making Kennedy how it will eventually turn out.
Yeah, film बनने के बाद ही पता चलता है कि आपने क्या बनाया.
Maybe we'd like to hear from the producer.
About
I'll introduce my producer also, Ranjan Singh, my producer. He is the one who's set up a lot of Inoxes, PVR. He's I think, one of the first people who was instrumental in releasing so many documentaries in India. He brought foreign language films in India officially in cinemas with Lofon. And that's where we met for the first time, because first time Darden Brothers movie released in India in cinemas. And he was probably standing there to see, I want to see who are the people coming, and I was the first one to buy the ticket. And that's when we met, and we have lasted for, I think, more than 18 years now.
Coming to Kennedy, one of the things is it's Anurag's one of the few fully written scripts by him. And I think the good thing is 80% of the script is there in the film still. So that's the sole reason he came back from his trip, and he had managed to go to Cannes that year, I think 21. And then he came back and wrote it in like one sitting, which is known.